my beautiful people? Welcome back to the Dr. Coach Show. I am your host, Dr. Coach Danny Pueblos, and today we have Mr. Josh Kozuch over here with the Tampa Bay Rays organization. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. It's such a crazy time. Like currently, as we speak, we're still waiting to hear what the hell our president is going to be, and so it's nuts. I know you're talking to me from California, from Florida. I'm over here in California, and so it's just it's been a while, 24 hours, man. So, but we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna step aside from all that right now because that'll drive you crazy, right? And I know so
Yes.
we're gonna have some fun, man. So, but yeah, man, I appreciate you being on. A little bit about Josh here. So he was born and raised in Michigan. Played college baseball at D1, Oakland University, and D2, Saginaw Valley State. He then went on to achieve his bachelor's in biology, coach high school and American Legion baseball. He then moved on to South Florida to get his master's in sports psychology at Barry University. So while he was at Barry University, he worked a couple of jobs. So he helped, get chairs for people at a resort. He had a city job, worked with the Marlins as a grounds crew. Then went to get an internship with the Mets after school. From there, he went on to show him what he had, and he got a full-time gig with the Mets as a mental skills coach. Spent 4 years with the Mets before leaving, and then now he's with the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Um, and even before that, he's been working with the AHL team from the Florida Panthers. And um, while he continues to work with the Rays, he also does some mental skills training on the side too. So a lot of good stuff, man. A lot of good development that you've had in the field, which I love. And that's just a testament to, and we'll talk about this more, but it's just a testament to how this field is growing and how you've seen people like yourself just like, go from interning to like full-time gigs, right?
hmm Yeah, man. That's it's interesting to hear you share my story, and I'm like, man, like I've kind of bounced around a little bit the past 5, 6 years, but no, it's been an awesome journey. I'm happy to be where I'm at, and each one of those experiences has led me to where I'm at as well. So I'm very thankful for all of that, and having the opportunity to be on your show today, connect with you, and yeah, even though we're all the way across the country from each other, I think it's awesome what you're doing, and yeah, I'm just happy to be on here and share any sort of knowledge and answer any questions that you have, man. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's exciting stuff. It's an exciting time in our field. Because of how you're seeing so much attention put towards sports psych. So going back, I know we shared your history, and it's awesome too, right? It's awesome that you've had that development because so many people do, and that's what I tell people like who I'm mentoring right now, and people who ask for like career advice. I tell them like get that experience where you can, and don't be so afraid to don't be so caught up on trying to go pro right away. Nobody
hmm
go to college. You'll get there. Get your skills developed, sharpen those skills at the youth level, high school level, and then keep talking to people, right? So going back to when you started, like what motivated you to get a start into the sports psychology career, the field, especially knowing that maybe back then it wasn't as developed as you see it now.
Yeah, to be honest, my own failures as a athlete are what kind of led me to sports psych. And playing college baseball, growing up, the goal was always to make it to the major leagues, right? Like that's just what you want to do. And one of the issues I had, and it was especially in college more so than anything else, was I was a catcher and I could not throw the ball back to the pitcher. So the easiest thing to do in the world when it comes to baseball is just play catch, throw it 60 feet, but I would get in that game setting and I would lock up, and it's called the yips.
Yes,
And
yeah,
I experienced them full out.
they're
And
real, man. They're a real thing.
oh my God, I'm telling you, like it was exhausting
Yeah,
because I didn't have anybody to talk it through. I didn't have anybody to help. I just go home and think all day about why can't you throw it 60 feet? Like what's wrong with you? Like what happened? And just all kinds of things. And so I worked through it. Still a little bit of hesitancy there when I play catch short distances, but I think I'm pretty good now. But just thinking about it after when I was involved with high school coaching, a lot of the stuff that I talked about with guys was just like, what is your approach? What are your thoughts on the mound? What are you trying to do when you get in the box? And at the time, I didn't have a sports psych background, but this is just what I'd always talk about with guys. And then when I found out about sports psychology, I said, oh my gosh, like this stuff is perfect. This is what I'm doing. There's actually science behind it. There's research, there's methods, there's just a ton of different resources. And I said, this is me. Like, this is what I want to get into. This is where I want to go. So got into sports psych, loved it. And then, like you mentioned, just getting reps, finding different high schools to work at. I worked with players at Barry University, our baseball team, the softball team. I was involved with women's cross country at a local high school, golf, tennis, like you name the sport, I probably had some sort of interaction with players in it. So just bounce around from there. But any way that you can get reps and connect with people is a really good way to just further your own career. And I was very fortunate to start an internship with the Mets straight out of school. And it's tough. It's tough to tell somebody like, hey, I was lucky a little bit, because those opportunities aren't always there for people. And it was a little bit of luck, but at the same time, I got the opportunity and I made the most of it. And then I was hired back full time the next season, and then just kind of worked my way up through the system, just like a player almost.
Yeah.
And then this past season jumped over to the Rays, but yeah, man, it's any way you can get reps is a good way. And keep your end goal in mind. If you want to get to the pros, get to the pros. But it's not always an easy process. It takes a little bit of luck, but it takes a lot of hard work.
Sure. Yeah, and that's good that you're able to spread that message, because it's true. And I can't tell you how many, and I talk to many mental coaches like yourself. I still keep in touch with so many guys in baseball, and guys and girls in baseball and other sports who work in the field. And so many of them had told me very similar how, it's kind of right place, right time. Some of it was luck, but at the same time, I really feel like, yeah, it might seem like luck, but a lot of times it's like you create your own luck, right? You put yourselves in positions to get that call. Hey, we have an opening. We have an opening over here with the Mets or the Rays. Let's come talk to me, and we'll see if there's a fit. And that's just and that's why I tell my mentees and people that I give guidance to is like, I tell them, start networking, talk to people, get on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is huge, right? Talk to people in the sports psychology field and who are working there, especially those who are working with teams. If you want to work with a team, right? Because at the very least, it'll help you get not only get your questions answered, but it also gets you in front of them. And if an opportunity does open up for an internship or even in like a part-time or full-time gig, they're gonna remember you. And I know I talked to many people, and they say they'd rather go to a person they know or someone that knows someone compared to having to sift through a bunch of resumes.
100%. And so I'll also share with you. I mentioned I was lucky to get started with the Mets. After last season, after the 2019 season, I chose to leave there. So I was, at the time, I had 4 years of professional baseball experiences. I worked at the AAA level. I was the coordinator last year and worked in professional hockey. So I said, oh, this is going to be really easy. Like, I'll find a job, no problem, in baseball. And, put my resumes out there and went through hiring processes. And I was told no a few times by different organizations. So yeah, I mean, it isn't always luck. Like, it takes sometimes being in the right place at the right time. And even if you have the resume, like, it's still really difficult to get into to an organization. So it is a process, and it takes patience. And it really tested me last year when I was going through it in the fall and winter of, wow, do I really want to be in pro sports? Do I really want to be in baseball? Is it going to be worth it with the travel and all of that? But things worked out. I'm very happy to be where I'm at now with the Rays, and it's a great organization, great people. But it's not an easy ride. It's not an easy route to get here. And you're just thankful when you do have those opportunities. So that's why I really like to share my experiences, share my stories. There's some luck. There's some hard work. There's a lot of different stories and paths that I took just in my journey that I think can really resonate with a lot of different people. So connect on LinkedIn, connect on social media, whatever it might be. I'm always happy to answer questions, talk through different things. So I think that's really huge, is just sharing experiences with people.
Absolutely. And so many people have so many different journeys, right? Like you had your way of coming up to where you are now. People have their other way. Some have been more formal, like applying for a position and just have the interview, this typical job.
Yep.
Um, so like, going back to your journey, and where's you talked about some challenges, but like talk about some notable experiences and some challenges that you face from where you started to where you are now.
Um, even from a mental, I'll share just personal journey, and then I'll
Sure.
also share from like a mental skill side. So
Yeah.
growing up, being from Michigan, hardworking family. My dad, he worked a city job. You work there for 25, 30 years, you retire and everything is good. So I kind of had that same type of mindset growing up of just like, okay, I'm going to get my degree. I'm going to put in 25, 30 years at the local city and then retire and everything is good. And, I was doing that for a little bit. I was working at a wastewater facility. And I was like, this is miserable. Like this life is not for me at all. Um, and that's what kind of led me also to go back for my master's degree and into sports psych. But when I was working those jobs down in Florida, like you mentioned, pulling chairs for people at the beach, like I was 20, 25, 26 years old. And here I am working at the local resort and people are telling me, hey, I need these chairs. I need these towels. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm 26 years old. Like, and I'm busting my butt, like
Yeah.
in the 85, 90 degrees heat, pulling chairs. And that type of stuff really drove me to want to make it,
Sure.
to want to reach my end goal of being a mental skills coach for a major league club and getting in there. So I think that those lessons and having to go through some of those tough times really taught me the value of hard work and also just it's not going to be an easy road to get there. So that's a lesson from the personal side. From the mental skills side, things that I've learned is just the importance of surrounding yourself with good people, surrounding yourself with good mentors and people that you can learn from and bounce ideas off of each other. I think is huge. You have to have people that you can count on to just talk to, that aren't going to judge you, that you can throw ideas at the wall and not be told no and not be told like, oh, that's a terrible idea. We're not going to do this. Like surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you, that are going to make you better. I think that's really important. And you have to enjoy what you do. You have to enjoy the work that you are doing. As a mental skills coach, it's often tough to first off quantify what we do. I know that that's often a challenge that we face, and a lot of times we don't get feedback. We don't get feedback from players or coaches saying like, "Hey, that was really good what you did." Like we'll have a discussion, they go out, they play, and you might not ever have another conversation until they start failing again. So sometimes like it's tough to get that feedback, which is why I say like have a really tight support system, have a few people that you can go to bounce those ideas off of, to get that feedback, to get that mentorship, like all that stuff is really important. So that can start to develop in grad school. And as you grow as a professional and as you connect with people on LinkedIn, like there's many different ways to grow out your circle, but create a circle, create that tight knit group of people that you can trust.
Yeah, and that's so true, man. You make such a good point as far as the feedback and how there are so many people, even like our players that we work with, who thrive off of feedback. They wait for their coaches to say good job, right? But sometimes we don't get that, and yeah, I completely agree. Like there are times we work with the team, and they're like, okay, the coach says, okay, let's go, and then that's it, So, and I
Mm-hmm.
know, I know as a mental coach and even as a professor I always love it when I get feedback, whatever it is. Whether it's hey, we appreciate you did, players did well, or I appreciate you doing this, all this stuff, right? But sometimes you just have to have the confidence, knowing like, hey, I feel like I give them my best product, I give them the best version of me, and that's all I can ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you're not gonna get that little bow on top to say, okay, I did my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people need that closure, but sometimes you have to be aware and be prepared. Like you might not get that, especially in the world of sports.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. And I'm not somebody that necessarily needs that pat on the back. Hey, Josh, you're doing a great job. Like, but sometimes it is nice to hear, like, hey,
Yeah,
I'm doing the right things because as a mental skills coach, like, it can be lonely, especially when you're traveling and bouncing around a lot of times, and when you're with a team for a week or two, and a lot of the things that you're hearing you can't share with other people in the
Yeah.
organization because of the confidentiality and things like that. So it can be challenging at times, but to me it's all worth it. All those challenges that come with this job, like to see somebody succeed and
Absolutely.
develop a process and routines and see their mental game really take them to the next level, like that makes it all worth it at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And I could definitely attest to how you had those experiences pulling chairs for people working with was it like waste management you said
Wastewater facility,
wastewater
so like,
facility.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and like because I remember when I was growing up, like even when I was in high school, I used to help my stepdad. He was a roofer, and I used to help him roof. And oh, that's a tough ass job, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like okay. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Even he would tell me like, stay in school, And so like those
Yep.
kind of and I used to like be a tyrant because I worked throughout college. All my 11 years in college, going from bachelor's to doctorate, I always had a job. And there were certain jobs I was over here, installing tires for Goodyear for a while. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm working with guys who are like 50, 60, and that's awesome that they're doing that because they have to, take care of business. But if I have the opportunity, I want to do what I love, and I'm so like just fortunate, and that's why I continue to stay on the grind, just like as you did, because we're living our dream. We love. I mean, I would assume you love what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Because I know I do. I love working with our athletes, and um, but it definitely is not for the faint of heart. Especially as you mentioned, like in sports, especially if you work with a pro team or even a college team for that matter. Um, there's a lot of things that people don't see behind the scenes. They just see the glitz and glamour. Oh, you're working with a pro team, pro organization, but they don't understand like all the travel that's involved, and you might have to be taken away from your family for a little bit, or even like permanently. If you have family in one state, you might go work with a team from a different state, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that those are all those factors that people don't kind of take into consideration, but they just see like, oh, I want to work for the Rays, I want to work for the Mets, but they don't understand like, yeah, it's that's cool, right? But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you might want to just factor in before making this a very significant decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot. It can be a lot, and it can
Yeah.
be overwhelming at times. So I think just understanding everything that goes into it. So again, that's why it's really important to connect with people that are already in the field to give you those. They're not horror stories. It's not complaining. It's just
Yeah.
being real. Like I'm just
Exactly.
being like, that's just what comes with it. So
Yeah.
either is this something that you can handle and want to do for years, or is it not? Like
Yeah.
I would hate to have somebody get into this field, get into, we'll say it was with the Rays, start working with us, and then all of a sudden they recognize, oh my gosh, we have to do all this travel. I'm away from my family for 7-8 months of the year. Like I can only go home for 3 days a month. Like this isn't for me. I'd rather have those conversations up front
Yeah.
and let them know like this is the way it is, this is the way it's going to be, and then just let them make that decision, as opposed to coming in hating what you do, being miserable away from your family, and yeah, just almost resenting it. But there's so many good things that come with this job. There's so many awesome stories and people that you connect with all over the country, and
Yeah.
to me, that again, that's what makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. And yeah, another good point, how making people aware is huge. And like, I don't want to make it seem like, it's so bad. No, it's not bad working in sports. Not, not whatsoever, but and that's why I tell people, like, get on LinkedIn, get on social media, reach out to these people who are working in the field and just talk to them about their experiences. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
see if that's what you want. See if you want to pick up and go to a different state where the ball club is hiring, or and see if that works for you, because as we had talked about before, um if I was in my early 20s, I would go wherever there was work, wherever there was opportunity. Now that I'm gonna have a family pretty soon, um things change, right? And priorities change, and I'm over in Southern California, and you know my options is a little bit more limited compared to where I was single, no obligations and nothing like that, right? So
Yep.
that's why I tell people, know your situation, know what you're able to do,
Mm-hmm.
talk to these people, And if it sounds like something you want, awesome, go get it, right? But at least you know, right? At least you like you said, at least you know going into it, rather than being blindsided and say, oh, like I wasn't aware that we're gonna be traveling. I won't be around my family as much, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just have to be aware. So having that experience working with a couple of organizations so far, what have you seen or experienced or even heard from colleagues as far as the differences between the levels? Like, have you seen anything notable?
Yeah. So I've had the opportunity to basically work at each level of the minor league systems, whether it's rookie ball, low A, high, double A, triple A. Not a whole lot of experience with the big league team at this point, but have had quite a few conversations with people who do work at that level. So, those guys who are at the rookie level, even low A, they're still trying to figure out themselves and who they are as baseball players. They're still trying to figure out the grind of a 140 game season. What does it take to be ready? How do I prepare myself before, during, and after games? So I talk a lot about routines with that group. Pre-performance, during performance, and post-performance routines, huge. And then as they get older, they start to have their routines. They know who they are. They know what they're trying to accomplish. Then it's just like being so self-aware of who you are, and then also positive self-talk, understanding that at the AAA level, that's where I see a lot of guys, they're either that one step away from the big leagues, or you'll have a lot of guys at AAA who have had opportunities to play in the big leagues and have sent back down. So they're waiting to get that call back up. So sometimes they're trying to re-identify themselves. So what do I need to do to get to the big leagues? And sometimes they think that they have to change a lot of things. And that's not always the case. It's just know who you are and play to your strengths. You're already good enough to be at that AAA level. To me, the biggest difference between AAA and the big leagues a lot of times is just consistency, being able to go out there and consistently do it. Managers, coaches, they want to be able to look at somebody's name and know that, hey, if I write this guy's name in the lineup today, this is what I'm going to get. They'd rather have somebody that they know what they're going to get than somebody who, yeah, he might go 3 for 4 with 2 homers today, but he also might go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Yeah. So playing that over the course of 162 game season, it's tough to ask a coach or manager to be able to count on you. So it's all about consistency, being able to maintain and understand who you are and bring it every single day. So there are differences at each level. We have guys that come from the Dominican Republic, and a lot of times when they're in rookie ball, this is their first time in the United States, and with a whole new language and culture and things like that. So those are different challenges. We'll have guys that are drafted straight out of high school, so they're a little bit green behind the ears, and we got to teach them some things. And at the same time, they'll be on the same team with a guy who has a 4-year college degree and is 22, 23 years old, has lived it. So you can have all those 3 types of players on the same team at the same time, which there's a lot of different challenges in that alone. So when it comes to like a team session or things like that, like you have to be really aware of what the message is you're delivering and also how you deliver it. As they get older, as they kind of come up through the system, guys understand the language barrier isn't quite as stark because those guys are going through English classes. They've been accustomed to being in the United States for a couple of years, but yeah, each level presents its own unique challenges. That's for sure. There's definitely not a one size fits all approach to each one. And that's even year to year. So yeah. It's always changing.
Yeah, that's a good insight, man. Like, do you speak Spanish by any chance?
Un poquito.
Yeah, because I always ask people who are working with these ball clubs, because I know, especially in baseball, there's so many players that come from the Dominican or Puerto Rico or Mexico, Cuba, right? And so, I know, like, having talked to other people and from different organizations, sometimes if they're bringing on a mental skills coach, they require them to speak Spanish or to be bilingual with Spanish and English, right? So, how was your experience with that? Being that you may or may not be fluent in Spanish.
Yeah, definitely not fluent in Spanish, and sometimes it can be tough. But I think it also, it gives me an opportunity to learn from those players. So I'll sit down with a lot of the Latin American players when they're eating lunch, and I'll just sit there and listen and try to immerse myself in their culture as much as possible. And I think it helps like kind of break down the barrier a little bit, because they'll see me and they'll be like, oh, look at this guy, like he's coming over to talk with us and spend time with us and play catch.
Yeah.
So I love just interacting with the Latin American players. They're very family oriented. You know, as long as you show them that you care about them, like, oh, it's awesome. So, you know, Google Translate's a really big tool that I use. I'll have conversations like that. Like I've had some pretty in-depth conversations with players just through using that. We'll pass the phone back and forth. And again, like you find ways to get it done. And I mean, I've been taking Rosetta Stone. So just always trying to find ways to get better. It's a lot easier to speak Spanish and hear it when you're around those guys a little bit more.
Yeah.
So like the off season, I feel like I'll lose my Spanish a little bit. And then once we kick it back off into spring training and into the season, like it picks back up. So, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. It definitely helps in baseball to be bilingual. That's for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, because I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. Like I have family that are from Mexico, but, you know, in my household growing up, it was just English. And so all the Spanish I know now, and I'm not fluent, but I'm getting a lot better. It's just from, you know, taking a couple of classes in high school, which even that, they teach you a lot of formal Spanish, where at least over here, they don't really speak that. There's certain things that I say, and they're like, no, that's not how we say it, you know? So a lot of it is just interacting, right? Like interacting with my fiance's family, talking with their parents. And like, it's so funny. And I'm sure you probably do this with the players sometimes too, is like, I'll like work on my Spanish with her parents, and like they'll try to speak, they work on their English. So we kind of like help each other out, you know? But that's the best way that I found, at least, and I'm sure you've probably found this too, is like just talking and working with these players, and just you know, because I'm sure they're trying to learn English, right? And obviously, you know, you're trying to, you know, sharpen those Spanish skills too. So that's awesome, man. So like right now, I know it's just a weird time for everyone, you know, with the whole pandemic. They talked to me just from like, since it's been going on, you know, back in February, March till now, like how has that impacted your ability, if at all, to work with these players?
Yeah, it definitely impacted it. And it was a challenge, especially this being my first year with the organization. So I got was at big league camp in February, and then we were sent home about a week after minor league camp started in March. So it was like the middle of March, everybody got sent home. And I've always been somebody who builds relationships in person. Like we'll sit in the dugout and have conversations. I'll be in the outfield and talk. We'll play catch, all that type of thing, and we'll just build it that way. Well, when everybody was sent home, really tough to build relationships the way that I always knew how to do it. So turn to Zoom, turn to text messages, and a lot of phone calls and things like that. And to be honest, like going into it, I had never been much of a technology person. Texting, calling, like that type of thing, like I would communicate that way. But the Zoom calls became my best friend. So we would have a lot of different sessions with guys over Zoom, and staff included. So I think we actually, as a department, we did a really good job of just getting through to our players, having conversations with them, connecting them, and then also not being overwhelming or overbearing with the stuff that we were asking, because they're also being pulled from other departments. Like, believe it or not, mental skills isn't the only department in the organization. Like they have their hitting coaches, strength and conditioning, athletic trainers, defense, hitting coaches, all those types of coaches that are trying to get in contact with the players at the same time. So you also have to be mindful of the workload that we're putting on players. So yeah, we were at home, but at the same time, like we're very busy with a lot of different phone calls and just being mindful of everybody's time. So I think that as a department, we did an awesome job this year of connecting with guys, of building those relationships. And then we just finished up a camp this past week, and it was really good to see the guys in person, put names to faces, and we could build off of the conversations we had already been having. So yeah, I think we made the best of it. You know, we were able to talk with all of our players at some point over the summer. So definitely a challenge. Definitely something I don't think I really want to have to go through again. I love being out on the field, building relationships and doing this work that way. But, I think it definitely helped me out as a consultant, just being able to add another tool to the toolbox of doing this over the phone and Zoom meetings. So,
Sure.
yeah, challenging, but we made it through.
Yeah, you and I both, my brother. We don't want to go through that the whole thing again. Because it's true. Like, I'm the same way. I'd rather work with my athletes face to face. But thank goodness for Zoom. Thank goodness to be for this online video chatting to where you can still see the person, right? Um, because I know some at least some of my players, they prefer phone call, but I'd rather be face to face just so I could talk to you, right? Just so I could see your face, see your expressions, and but it's not for everyone. But yeah, it's a lot of similar experiences for a lot of people during this COVID-19 situation, and we'll see what happens, over the next month or so. As we talked before, the basketball team that I helped coach, OCC, we're starting to go back slowly, very slowly. And so hopefully that keeps progressing, gets for the better. And that's the thing too. Like as mental skills coaches, one of the things that we teach our athletes is to control what they can't control. This whole situation is a big uncontrollable, right? And so we have to practice what we preach, right? We can't freak out and say, oh, we can't work with you one on one. What are we gonna do? No, we're gonna adjust, just how we train our players to adjust to those situations that come up, right? And just take it from there. Just refocus and keep working.
Yeah, 100%. Really been a trial and error of practicing what we preach throughout this whole summer, for sure.
Yeah. So like having experience from your development in the field of sports psychology, and seeing what you've seen, and I know I'm always talking about the growth of the field because I've been working it, I've been teaching the field for several years now, and I've seen, and just from back when I first started, like even started going to grad school, seeing where the field was then to where it is now, it's been huge. It's been significant. Just increase in the utilization of mental coaches, hiring full-time coaches, across major league sports. So like, what have you seen as far as the growth of the field of sports psychology?
I think it's blowing up. I see it in just baseball alone. Every single team is required now to have somebody on staff that provides mental health or mental skills services. Now it's up to each team to determine how many and how to what levels that is. But I think for the most part, a lot of teams have multiple people, whether they're licensed clinicians or mental skills coaches or mental performance coaches, whatever you want to call it. Like in baseball, it's really getting big, and I think in other sports as well, the licensed clinician is a big thing. So mental health is definitely starting to get big, and I think with baseball. So I don't have my CMPC right now, but I'm in the process of it. We're right there. The application is going to be going out soon, and then I'll be taking the exam, and we'll be good. But I think for baseball, and I think all sports, what's going to end up happening is there's going to need to be some sort of licensure, whether it's the CMPC or APA, whatever it might be. But I think if you're coming up and you're in school and can get that CMPC taken care of, I would say do it right away. Get it, so then it's done. And the reason that I think it's happening too is because you look at athletic trainers, they all have to be certified. You look at strength conditioning coaches, they all have their CSCS certifications. Mental skills right now, to be hired, you don't specifically have to have anything right now. It's a lot of job descriptions will say preferred CMPC, but I think what's going to happen is in a year, 2 years, couple of years down the road, it's going to be, okay, this is a qualification. You need to have that CMPC before we hire you. So yeah, if I was out there and still getting my master's degree and doing all that, the sooner that you can get that stuff, the better. Some sort of letters to be able to put behind your name. I think it helps give credibility, not only to yourself, but to the field. So that's why I'm working on it. That's why I know we took that class together this summer. We were both working towards it. So yeah, I'll be there soon.
Yeah, man. And for those of you who are watching that are thinking, what the hell is a CMPC? So CMPC is a certified mental performance consultant. And that's certification through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology. So that's pretty much you have like clinicians who have their licensing, for practice. That's like our certification in the world of sports psychology. So, and there's so many hours you need, for mentoring hours, direct client hours, and then you have to have certain classes, and a big chunk of those classes have to be graduate level coursework, right? And then finally, like Josh just said, you have to take the exam. So yeah, it's not easy, but it shouldn't be easy, right? Because as you mentioned, Josh, it gives credence and validity to the individual and the field. And I completely agree. I've seen the same trend, the same things happen, over time, as far as the CNPC certification being required. I mean, I agree. I've seen so many job postings for mental skills coaches, even coordinators, where before it was like preferred. And the first one comes to mind. There was a mental. I think the title was mental skills coordinator for the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team. On their job posting, that CNPC certification, it's under the required qualifications. And that just exemplifies what we're talking about, right? How the field is growing so much, and therefore the bar is going to be raised. There are more and more mental coaches sprouting up every single day, right? And it's so funny. I see this all the time. I'm like, holy crap, like every day it seems like a new one's popping up, which I love, because it's showing me the field is growing and they're starting to recognize the importance of us. Whereas before you had like, the very rare handful of people like Ken Ravizza, right? Just those pioneers back then, and then and now you start to see so many more people, and even like as consumers, maybe someone wants to start their own practice. Maybe they don't want to go work with a team. I would if I was a consumer looking for a mental coach, I would probably go with someone who's certified rather than someone who just calls himself a life coach, right? Especially if they have like education to back it as well. all these things, because it's just a testament to how the field is growing. And I agree. And even seeing, I would say baseball, because I've worked in so many different sports and different levels. Baseball is ahead of the game. They have been ahead of the game as far as employing mental coaches. But you're starting to see, like I said, the NBA, NFL, Buffalo Bills just hired. They had a job posting not too long ago. So again, all these job postings coming up, and all of a sudden, it's starting to be a very common thing. And that's why I remembered I used to teach master's level sports psychology, and I told my students, and this is like a few years ago, get in now, establish yourself now, because the field is going to continue to boom. And here we are in 2020, and that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So like for those, if someone were to ask you, hey Josh, I want to work in the field, someone reach out to you, I want to work in the field, like what we talked about certification, right? Definitely want to get that, especially if you can get it, as you're getting your graduate degrees, right? There are some programs that offer, helping you get your hours towards the CNPC, so that by the time you're done, you can go, you're ready for the exam, right? But what are some other, if someone were to ask you, what's some advice that you would give them to work in the field?
Yeah, get reps. Find ways to give free sessions, whether it's at the school that you're at, a high school that you worked at before, or high school that you went to before, teams that you played on in the past. Like any way to get those reps. Like that's the only way I think to really get better, is to just put yourself out there, give sessions, do one-on-one consultations, do it for free. A lot of times, which is hard to say, especially when you're just coming up, but I think that's really the best way. If you're in those programs already, like I said, when I was at Barry, I was able to work with the baseball team. We already had a relationship there with the teams there. So that really helped. So if you can go to grad schools that already have those kind of applied work experiences already in place, that's very helpful. And maybe you don't want to work specifically with athletes in an individual setting. There's also the research track that you can take, and that wasn't something that I was particularly interested in, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that's being done when it comes to sports psychology, a lot of research. It was called at Barry the thesis track. So you could take that thesis track, you write your thesis, you get your degree. A lot of people go on for their PhDs or PsyDs. So when it comes to sports psych, like there's a lot of different routes that you can take. It's not just, oh, I want to work in pro sports as a mental skills coach. Like, no, you can go do research. You can work in high schools. You can become just a college coach of this sport. Like, I think a lot of coaches just in general, managers, things like that, like having a sports psych degree would be huge to know what it takes to motivate your players, how to develop routines, self-talk, anything like that. So I think that if you get into sports psych, there's tons of different opportunities. And that's also what makes it exciting, is you can kind of make it what you want, depending on what you're interested in. So it's just thinking about what you're interested in, getting those reps, trying to get into the right programs for you, and then just continuing to connect with people and learn from them and ask questions. I don't think I've met one person in this field who isn't willing to share their experiences or share their stories or offer their advice. So I think this is an awesome field with a lot of great people who are willing to share, and just reach out to people.
A lot of great advice, man. Yeah, because there are a lot of people, like I said, there are a lot of up and comers who are looking to get their degrees and get their opportunities in the field. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head, because and we just saw like ASP just had their conference recently, and you saw people presenting who aren't really applied practitioners, but they do a lot of research, right? Or like we have professors in the field who teach this stuff. And sometimes you see, a lot of times you see overlap, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I know, like I was listening to people where I'm like, I may not do that, but sometimes so it depends, right? Because us as applied, I kind of have my feet in both areas where I teach, and I'm also an applied practitioner, but some people, they just do either or, and sometimes there's the communication is not there specifically, but for the most part there is, and that's what you said. There's a lot of that foundation, that background information that these researchers find, and that a lot of us people in the applied realm we use, right? Because we're saying, okay, then we'll test it out. We'll see if it works. All right. Because I know I talk to people in research, and sometimes they'll say, "Oh, do this, it works," and I'm just like, I'm working with these athletes. I don't know if that's going to work very well, right? So again, sometimes it is trial and error, right? Man, that's so huge. And I remember, like, now is a great time, because when I was first looking for graduate programs, there wasn't that many. I was looking around, and I was like, my sources were limited, and now there's so many more opportunities out there, because, and again, this is a testament to the growth of the field. So yeah, I definitely second what everything Josh just said. And if you're looking for like graduate programs, start doing your homework, talking to counselors, see what's what's the best fit for you and what you want to do as far as your career goes. Because again, you might want to work in the research field, you might want to be more applied. And again, it's talking to these programs, talking to people who are working in the field, and then making like a well-informed decision from there, right? So a lot of good advice, man. So when Mr. Josh is not mental coaching, what do you like to do for fun, man?
Living in Florida, I like to go to the beach and just hang out a lot of times. One of my goals this winter is to get better at golf. I'm not very good. We'll just put it that way. But I think I think it'd be a really important life skill to learn. Especially like, and I've got, if I live to be 80, I've got another about 50 years or so to get better at it. So I think now's a good time to start. But yeah, I like to be outdoors, spend time with the family, do all that type of stuff. But yeah, usually for the most part, it's pretty laid back, just relaxing type of thing for me.
There you go. Yeah, man. Especially if you're on the grind a lot, sometimes you just want to do nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hang out at
Mm-hmm.
the beach and it's like just take it in because sometimes those opportunities don't come up very often. So
No,
that's
when
awesome.
you're in the middle, when I'm in the season, that's really January till now. So
Yeah,
it's just like now when you have some time to decompress, it's just nice to go stare at the waves as they crash into the sand. So
yeah.
that's what I like to do.
And it's so funny too because like I'll talk to some of the baseball players and I'll ask them, "What do you like to do in your free time?" Many of them just say, "I just like to hang, just barbecue, just play video games, just like decompress." Because, like, as you said, when you're on the grind, when it's season, when you're training, it doesn't stop. So sometimes you need that off time to just balance you out. So
Hmm.
it's good stuff, man. Do you like to? Yeah, have you during this quarantine, have you caught up any like shows or books or anything like that? Podcasts?
Yeah, I've read a lot of different books and shows. I don't know shows that would be like that would be helpful for mental skills, but different books. Probably the biggest book that I liked that I read over this past summer was Atomic Habits by James Clear. I thought that was really good. Different podcasts. I can't think of the name of it. It's Ryan Hawk. I think it's like learning leaders or something with leaders,
Nice.
growing leaders, something. But it's really good. So those are probably two of the biggest things that I turn to this time.
Yeah.
But yeah, always looking for different books. Those are just the things that I think of off the top of my head. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a book a week or so that I was going through. So
Wow,
it's
that's pretty
busy.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have that book. It's on my shelf. Like I have this habit of talking about habits of like buying books. Like I'll go to Barnes and Nobles and like for like a gift for someone, and then I'm like, oh, I have to buy something for myself. So I know Atomic Habits is on my bookshelf somewhere, and it's on my queue to start reading. Because I just go back to back, and I'm just like, all right, I have to like just stop buying and just finish what I have now, and then take it from there.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there, that's for sure.
there is. So, Josh, my friend, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being on. I know people, got a really good insight to what it looks like to work in mental skills, and I appreciate you giving people that insight.
Yeah, man, of course. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, if there's questions or people want to reach out, like feel free anytime.
Absolutely. So again, we appreciate our guest today, Josh Kozu. If you want to get a hold of Josh, you can follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Josh_Kozu. That's Kozuch. Okay. Or you can follow, he has his own YouTube channel, the Mental Performance Coaching with Josh Kozu. Again, that's Kozuch. And of course, if you like what we saw today, we have so many awesome guests, including my boy Josh here. So if you like what you see, like, subscribe, and tell your boys, tell your girls. So again, thank you, Josh, for coming on. Everyone, be safe, be well, be easy, love each other, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.